NFL training camp is officially open for all 32 teams, and we have contract dilemmas across the NFL. We'll talk about that. And we also have some extensions as well to talk about. NFL Spotlight starts now. Welcome in. It is the Wednesday, July 23 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. I am your host, Ari Meirov. You could feel football in the air. If you're scrolling on your social media feeds, it's filled with football updates, some football highlights from training camps that are officially underway. As of today, all 32 teams are officially there. As a reminder, yesterday was Tuesday. We had our special spotlight guest of the week. The feedback has been unbelievable so far. We had Jacksonville Jaguars offensive coordinator Grant Yudinsky, one of the youngest and brightest offensive minds in football, joining us on the show, and his path, his journey. It's a very, very motivational one, as you can see in the interview when you will watch it. So go back one episode if you have not seen that yet. Like I said, the feedback from across the league, privately, publicly, it's been through the roof, which is really, really cool to see. As for today, we have a lot to get to around the NFL. Let me bring in my good friend Ben Allen. Ben, what is going on? It is great to see you.
Yeah, Ari, it's great to see you too. And likewise, like you were saying with Grant, it was fantastic having him on, and the feedback has been awesome. News is starting to pick up, which is why we're back from that little hiatus we took. And a lot of it has to do with what's going on with training camp, who's there, who's not there, who's holding in, who's holding out. Biggest, we got to talk about what's going on at the Star. Jerry Jones, Micah Parsons, they've been kind of going back and forth. Micah is like sort of holding in. He's got a back injury, which you can maybe tell us a little bit more legitimacy of that, why he's there, but not necessarily doing drills, all that jazz. Jerry has had some comments that we'll listen to here in a second, but it's starting to feel a little uncomfortable to me. Can you walk us through the situation and when we can expect this to maybe be resolved? And do you imagine it's going to get uglier?
Yeah, Ben. Last year when we started this show, NFL Spotlight, the very first episode was with Levante David. And in that episode, on the back end, we discussed some NFL news. And the NFL news that we had that day was Jerry Jones doing his press conference at Oxnard, California before the start of training camp. And it was similar to this one. Last year, it was Dak Prescott. It was CeeDee Lamb. It was just some hilarious quotes about him and giving money and talking about the 90s of the Cowboys. It was just hilarious. Here we go again this year. It's kind of similar. And this time, it's just Micah Parsons. And once again, it's the same format. Jerry Jones is there. Stephen Jones is there. Instead of Mike McCarthy, we get Brian Schottenheimer now. And essentially, Jerry Jones is just saying stuff that he should not. And here's a perfect example.
Because we signed him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. We've signed, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about when you, just as the player does, when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money.
This guy cracks me up, Ari. So good.
It's my favorite press conference every year to tune into this one. It just is, because you never know what to expect. And I'll just say, everything Jerry Jones said there, that is actual stuff that is actually said in negotiations between a team and an agent. That's why you have an agent. It's just not said to the public. And that's basically what Jerry Jones did. And he mentioned 6 games. The fact check, by the way, he only missed 4 games last year. So that's part of it. But Micah Parsons reported to training camp for a number of reasons. Number one, he doesn't want to get fined. It's, he likes his money. Number two, there is a leadership element there in Dallas, which was a very, very big talking point during this press conference that happened the other day. Jerry Jones is very serious about the players that he pays have to become leaders and guys of the team. So Micah Parsons, I think, knew that, and he showed up. And also, Micah mentioned himself, DeMarcus Lawrence is no longer there. I have to fill those leader shoes that he's no longer here. So he's kind of doing that. Now, what's up with the negotiations? Now, Micah actually would love to get a deal done as early as possible. I also believe that the agent and the people representing Micah Parsons are very, very smart people. And they realize that Micah Parsons is probably the best young pass rusher who needs to get paid. So it's actually wise of him to actually wait over here and let the other pass rushers get done first. So we saw TJ Watt get $41 million per year. Aiden Hutchinson is still out there potentially. So because of that, I don't think Micah Parsons' own people are upset about this. I think they're okay with waiting because they know at some point something's going to get figured out over here. But Micah, if it was up to him, he would have loved to get a deal done a long time ago, get it over with. And in fact, as we know, Jerry Jones directly negotiated with Micah Parsons without the agent. And eventually, Micah was like, hey, let me get my agent involved in here because I kind of paid him 3% for all this. So I think that would make sense. So that's kind of where all of this stands. He is at camp. He's not fully holding in. He is participating in some stuff. He's not participating in all stuff. It's more about protecting his body and making sure nothing crazy happens there. But this is a situation where Dallas does this all the time. They did it with Dak last year. They did it with CeeDee Lamb last year. They take their time. And in some cases, like Stephen Jones said in the press conference, the player also wants to wait to see where the market goes. So that can also be part of the situation over here. But when Jerry Jones is just saying some of this stuff, it's so unnecessary. But like we've learned many times before, Jerry Jones is an entertainer. He loves the attention. He loves the media coverage. He's a believer that all coverage is good coverage. And that's basically what the press conference was. But I don't think it's a situation where everyone is clashing heads right now. I do believe eventually this gets done. And my prediction is it ends up somewhere that $43-44 million per year.
So then the question becomes, is he waiting for anyone else to get this deal done? Because obviously the TJ Watt deal, $41 million, that reset the market, passing Myles Garrett by that cool $1 million. We already know Trey Hendrickson's not pushing for that number. Is Aiden Hutchinson going to be in that discussion for that $40 million? Or is it really just this deal will get done when it gets done, and when it's done, it will beat TJ and there's nothing else in between?
So my understanding is, like you said, Trey Hendrickson is not going to be in this stratosphere, even though you can make an argument he deserves it. Aiden Hutchinson, from my knowledge, is trying to get into those fours, and those negotiations have been ongoing. So again, going back to the agent over here for Micah Parsons, I think he might be waiting over here to see if something happens with Aiden Hutchinson, because I do believe at the end of all this, the preference over here from the agent who has to do right by the player is to become the highest paid non-quarterback in football history once it's all said and done. We've seen Max Crosby had that title this offseason. Daniil Hunter had it for a second. Then Jamar Chase got it. Or then Myles Garrett got it. Then Jamar Chase got it. Then TJ Watt got it. It keeps on resetting. I think at the end of the entire musical chairs, Micah Parsons people would like for him to be at top because he is the best player, the youngest player, second bite of the apple, not third bite like most of those guys when it comes to contract. So that's the way I look at this, and that is also a big part of it. Aiden Hutchinson, will it happen? Will it not happen? Will he want to do a deal coming off an injury when the team might give you some concerns and hesitancy? Maybe he waits another year. We don't know the full clarity there, but that is also a big part of this as well.
Well, I just mentioned his name a second ago, that being Trey Hendrickson. He is not going to be showing up to Bengals training camp, it appears. Shemar Stewart, his teammate, whom he has never gotten a chance to fully work out with yet because he has not signed his rookie contract, also not had a resolution. Mike Brown, the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals, did speak out about the situation. He is, for as many things as you hear about the negativity between the ownership often and the players, front office, all this kind of stuff, he's pretty open as to what's going on with his organization. So he gave a lot of comments about the situation. Trey thinking it's close, Shemar calling it foolishness that this stuff's not done yet. He's not paying someone who would be in prison. It's a lot of interesting stuff to unpack. Can you kind of get us up to speed for maybe those who are not as familiar with the situation as to what's been going on, and then just a little bit of a quick synopsis of the back and forth with the contract for Shemar and Trey not getting the money that he thinks he deserves?
Yeah, let's go step by step over here. Let's give some behind the scenes as well. So yesterday we did the interview, the episode of Grant Yudinsky, and usually on the back end of the show, we discuss some NFL news about what's going on just for like 5-10 minutes before wrapping up. We decided to skip it yesterday because our plan was to talk about the Bengals, but we kind of call in that there were some negotiations going on with Trey Hendrickson. So maybe, just maybe, it would get outdated. And of course, we find out the very next morning those talks did not end well. Trey left Cincinnati. He's now back at his home state of Florida. And the simple behind the scenes of what happened here is the Bengals finally woke up after a very long time of not taking Trey Hendrickson and his camp very seriously. And they got all the important people that need to negotiate this contract to start negotiating with him. And it was over a 3-day span, I would say, where talks were ongoing. And Trey's camp made it clear what they need. The Bengals camp made it clear what they want. And basically, there were some proposals that went back and forth. But each time Trey's camp made a proposal, there was guarantees that were for multiple years, which is what he believes he deserves, what he saw Jamar Chase get, what he saw Joe Burrow get. And essentially, every single time, the Bengals came back and basically sent a proposal that only had the current year guaranteed with more years on the contract, but none of that is fully guaranteed. And Trey Hendrickson made it clear, I'm not going to sign a deal that has no more guaranteed money after 1 year. I need to have some security over here and know that I am going to retire a Cincinnati Bengal. And once those proposals kept on going back and forth, and basically everyone realized we're arguing over the same thing we've been arguing about all offseason long, and none of us are changing our plans and trying to find common ground, that's when all the talks hit an impasse. Everyone said, enough is enough. We're skipping training camp. We're not going to be here. Sayonara. See you later. And that's basically where things stand right now. So that's kind of where everything stands with Trey Hendrickson. We'll see if those talks are going to restart. But that was probably the best effort that was made to this point this offseason about an extension getting done. And from the Bengals standpoint, just for the background here, they have a history of not guaranteeing money after the first year. They usually only do it for quarterbacks. They did it for Jamar Chase. They made an exception for Jamar Chase this offseason. There's unclear why, because, again, they only do it for quarterbacks. I guess the reason is because Jamar Chase is awesome. But if they're going to do it for a player who's not a quarterback, now that opens the door for Trey Hendrickson to ask for the same thing. And that's kind of where the sticking point is right now when it comes to all of this. And they're not willing to go and change precedent for Trey Hendrickson. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. He's scheduled to make $16 million this year. Trey has said it publicly, and I believe him. He is not stepping on the field without a new deal. So we'll see if these talks restart. We'll see if they can find some different type of resolution. But that's kind of what happened over here over the last several days. As for Shemar Stewart, Duke Tobin, their de facto GM, spoke. Mike Brown, their owner, spoke. They explained the situation from their vantage point. I will give some clarity. Mike Brown literally used the most extreme situation possible, which is a guy having a problem and getting arrested and being behind bars. It's a very extreme situation. The thing is, what they're arguing about, from my knowledge, does not have to be something like that extreme. If he just gets suspended for something that is not significant off the field, that can also result in money voiding. If people do not know the background over here, every first-round pick gets a fully guaranteed contract. But in the language, the Bengals want to change that. If an off-the-field problem does happen, his entire contract of fully guaranteed money will void and they can take it back. The agent side is like, no. It's only going to void for that current year, but the other years are going to stay the same. The difference over here is in previous contracts with the Bengals, first-round picks, they had the language the agent is asking for. They all of a sudden want to change it this year and set a new precedent. So that's kind of what's going on over here. And the agent's argument is, why are you using us as an example, especially when we were the 17th overall pick this year? Last year, you guys had the 18th overall pick, and which is a later pick, and you gave him the language that we're asking for. So if you're going to do this contract language adjustment, do it with a pick who's later in the draft. Don't do it on someone picked even earlier than the slot from last year. So that's the argument. There have been some rumblings that something could get done over here, that maybe one of these sides are going to give in, but that has not happened yet as of this recording. And it's unfortunate because training camp is here. He's supposed to be a big part of the team. I have heard that the agent has told some people that he has NIL offers that are 7 figures, and he'll consider that. I don't buy that at all for what it's worth. But it's just a crazy thing that a rookie contract, which is so simple, is not done over here with training camp starting. It should not be the case, but that is what it is when it comes to this organization and this agent.
So if you were, again, not a betting man, but preseason week 1, do you think they have one, both, neither on the field? Albeit they probably wouldn't play either way, but would they be available?
Okay, my prediction is both will be there. Now, I am saying that just because I do believe deadline spur action, and the real deadline here is before the season, because by then, this is championship aspirations in Cincinnati. Like, this is not some, team that nobody has expected. Like, this is a team that is serious about winning here. And if you watch the quarterback series, you see the frustration with Joe Burrow last year that this team had one of the better quarterback seasons we've seen, triple crown receiver, sack leader, and they start the year 0-3 and they're struggling and they lose these close games. And it's like the last thing they need is distraction. So I do think they're going to revisit this, but the Bengals are an organization when they have a stance, they are dug in, and everything else does not matter. That is what scares me over here. But I think these players want to get on the field. I've heard Trey Hendrickson, and I think he said this publicly to one of the reporters out there, he's willing to take less than where the market is. That's where he is right now. So I think something will be figured out. It's about guarantees over there. Shemar Stewart situation, I just believe one of these sides will give it. It's such a minor detail, like Mike Brown said. I mean, at some point, when rookies get picked in the NFL, the first contract is nice. It's about the second contract. And the work all starts at training camp. So I just think it would be the right thing for him to be there at some point. So I think something will get done. But until it gets done, man, nothing is done. That's kind of where we stand right now.
This is unrelated to the contract situations, but I am not buying that Joe Burrow knows how to play the piano. Dun, dun, dun.
If you watch the quarterback series, you know exactly what Ben is talking about.
It's a great way to start the show with a piano scene. Anyway, let's move on to another contract situation that I think a lot of Washington fans hope gets solved soon, because I think they really do love this guy, and this guy has made it clear he wants to be a Washington Commander for the foreseeable future. Terry McLaurin didn't report to training camp on Tuesday. He wants a new deal. He's closing in on 30 years old, which is unfortunately going to put him on the wrong side of 30, which is causing maybe some of the complications as to why an extension hasn't been worked out yet. He is currently not a top 10 wide receiver in terms of payment. I imagine that's where he wants to be. What's the latest on this situation?
Yeah, I mean, Terry McLaurin saw one of his own draft classmates in DK Metcalf get extended this offseason on a $33 million per year deal. And that's the number that I think we're looking at, somewhere in those 30s. And he is going to be 30 years old in September, and people are pointing to that age. I think there's one thing that we should mention when it comes to that age. Terry McLaurin is a player who did not play much at the beginning of his college career, which as a result means he did not have much wear and tear. He was an older rookie when he came in, but when you look at his stats and his durability, he does not miss much time. If you look at his career, he's never had a long playoff run until last season. So that is the argument that he is making, his people are making. If you're going to use that 30 years old thing, at least give context to it. We know where he's looking for. As I said before, it's over $30 million per year. And that is basically where the market is. We saw T. Higgins this offseason, who he would be a wide receiver 1 on some teams. He's a wide receiver 2 in Cincinnati. He's getting $28.5 million per year. Terry is a wide receiver 1 on his team. So it's got to be definitely more than that, but we're talking about in the 30s. And that's kind of where this thing is. Terry's upset. He publicly said he's upset. He's not going to show up to training camp. And it's another situation where for Washington, after all the success you had last year, the positive momentum, the new ownership, new head coach, new GM, new quarterback, obviously, who was rookie of the year, you don't want your star receiver who has been the model player, model person, model everything ever since he got there to be upset. I get it. It's a negotiation, but Adam Peters did acknowledge there has been some communication in recent days. I just think this is a situation where it makes more sense to speed it up because you want him to be there. So we know what he wants. We know where the team is. They've been talking in those high mid-20s. They got to go up from that. And if they will, this thing has a better shot of getting done. At this point, as Terry McLaurin said, he has felt disrespected, and he's pretty frustrated how things are going. And this is the latest sign of him being very upset as he is skipping training camp and taking on $50,000 in fines every single day.
Are you surprised that he's not finding a way to hold in?
I think he wants to make this as awkward as possible. And knowing just how important he is to the organization, if he's there on the sidelines, like, yeah, I guess it's awkward, but he's in the building. He's speaking to his quarterback. He'll speak to Cliff Kingsbury. If he's not in the building at all, he's not speaking to anybody there, right? So I think that's where it makes it more awkward. And again, he is aware of just the expectations for the Commanders this year and where they should be going into the year. So if he's not there, that makes everything more difficult. So he wants to speed up this process, which makes a lot of sense. And we'll see if the Commanders have any response over here in the coming.
All right. Well, going from guys that haven't gotten their deals to somebody who just got paid, Zack Tom, come on down for the Green Bay Packers. 4 years, $88 million, including a fat $30.2 million signing bonus. Zack Tom, maybe not the leader in the clubhouse for offensive linemen, the common folk know, but somebody who has had a decent amount of success there in Green Bay. He kind of is a continuation of a lot of the offseason signings that we saw of guys that maybe we're not as familiar with on the offensive line getting these $20 million plus contracts. Is this a little bit more of a reflection of what's to come? Do you imagine this is going to be a trend for a while with, because of a scarcity of actual impact to even sometimes just decent offensive linemen not being available, that we're going to see these numbers continue to climb and more guys, not be disrespectful, but in the Zack Tom sphere, could be seeing numbers like this?
Yeah, so a few things here. First of all, the Packers just history of finding offensive linemen, primarily in the fourth round. I saw this tweet from the Packers actually. Zack Tom, David Bakhtiari, J.C. Treader, T.J. Lang, and Josh Sinner were all fourth round picks by them, who had exceptional careers in Green Bay. It's quite remarkable how they've had success finding offensive linemen there in the middle of the draft. But he's not a household name to this point. This is a very, very good contract for him. 4 years, $88 million, $30.2 million signing bonus is something important over there because, like you said, it's the highest ever for an offensive lineman. But like the Bengals, the Packers don't guarantee money after the first year unless you're a quarterback. The way they do it is they give you large signing bonuses, and that is essentially the only guarantee in the contract. So $30.2 million is the total guarantee amount over here for Zack Tom in the contract, and it comes in a signing bonus. The Bengals do it with a roster bonus, but it's a very interesting note over here when it comes to the contract. But former fourth round pick has started every game the last 2 years protecting Jordan Love, and he's basically somebody who they believe will continue to ascend. And they have really reworked the offensive line this offseason. They, of course, signed Aaron Banks to a very big contract. They have this Elton Jenkins situation where they want to move him to center. He wants a new contract as well. But that offensive line has really been really coming together over here over the last couple of years. And you mentioned the market over here. This does set the stage for some other offensive linemen who kind of fall into the same category as a Zack Tom. And probably the most notable name over there would be Luke Gedicke in Tampa Bay, their right tackle who they drafted in the second round, entering the final year of his contract, same draft class as Zack Tom. This essentially sets the market for him to get an extension in Tampa Bay. So that is probably the next offensive lineman over here in this category that could be coming up. We have one other big offensive line contract that we're kind of waiting for in Los Angeles with Rashawn Slater. He's a left tackle. A lot of rumblings out there. If that deal gets done, it'll be the highest paid offensive tackle in NFL history. So we're going to have some big money going out over here to some offensive linemen. Bernard Raymond in Indianapolis is another one. He's a left tackle, but similar situation to Zack Tom. Same draft class, picked in the middle of the draft, has become a consistent starter. Because he's a left tackle, he might get more than $22 million a year. But this contract really sets it up for some guys around the NFL, and we're going to see that coming over here in the next couple of weeks.
All right, Ari. We have gone through a bunch of guys who have had their NFL contracts either on the ropes or getting signed in Zack Tom's case. We got to talk about 3 guys now who have made a boatload of money during their careers, and they have said, au revoir, time to retire. Jimmy Graham, the legendary tight end, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, and Phillip Rivers, who somehow had not filed his paperwork yet to be retired, has officially gone back and retired as a Los Angeles Charger / San Diego Charger. Congratulations to these three guys for their great careers. A lot of fun stuff there. I was going to tease you and ask you which of these guys you think is going to be Hall of Famer, but in general, what are some of your lasting memories of these three? I assume Phillip Rivers mic'd up is definitely going to be one of the highlights of this group.
Phillip Rivers mic'd up is some of the best NFL film stuff that we have in NFL history. The best one being by far against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think it was Josh Allen, the pass rusher, where he just walks by him after a 90-yard touchdown and just starts screaming, 90-yard touchdown right in his face. It's one of the greatest clips ever. But an energetic guy. The Hall of Fame is a fascinating conversation with him. Like, people will say he's the Hall of Very Good, but look at his numbers. Look what he did in San Diego. Look at the playoff appearances. He was one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks we've had in the NFL. Kind of falls into that, Matt Ryan category of quarterbacks where they were just always consistently good, always reliable, and almost was a one-team quarterback, of course, similar to Matt Ryan. Both guys finished their careers with the Colts after being with one team over the course of their career. I don't know why he announced it right now. He wanted to officially retire as a Charger. They put out this really awesome 4.5-minute video. His former offensive lineman surprised him. He started getting emotional. That was awesome to see. But everyone will remember him, of course, for all those great memories. And, of course, being involved in one of the biggest draft day trades in NFL history, where he was picked 4th overall by the New York Giants and 10-15 minutes later was swapped for Eli Manning in a mammoth trade. As we all know, Eli would go on to win 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. You could make an argument Phillip Rivers had a better statistical career than Eli Manning, but Eli's got those 2 rings. That's kind of what ends up mattering over here when it comes to all of that, especially with the Hall of Fame candidacy. The other 2 guys over here, Jimmy Graham was just hilarious when he came out, just because 2 years ago he randomly came back to the NFL, and when they announced it, I thought that was him signing his one-day retirement paper, and he just randomly came back to play with the Saints again. So this one is actually official, and during his early days, of course, with the Saints, with Drew Brees, being the former basketball player that he is, just catching balls over everybody and dunking with the goalpost. Eventually, as a result, the NFL had to ban that because at one point he made the entire goalpost shake after dunking on it. One of the great careers, and another player who was involved in, I would call it a shocking trade. It was the start of free agency when everyone thought Jimmy Graham would be with the Saints his entire career. If people recall, he was in a very, very difficult grievance with the team about what position he played, receiver or tight end. And eventually the Saints all of a sudden traded him to the Seattle Seahawks for Max Unger, the offensive lineman. That trade worked out okay for the Saints. He had some moments in Seattle, but he belonged in New Orleans with Drew Brees. And if he was able to be with him his entire career, I think he would go down. He goes down as one of the, great tight ends of his era, but I think if he played his entire career with Drew Brees, he might go down as one of the greatest tight ends of all time if he got to do 10, 12, 13, 14 years with Drew Brees. But another great career for him, and he is now officially retired as well. And then Tyrann Mathieu is the one that kind of came out of nowhere because he has been with the Saints all offseason. He adjusted his contract this offseason. They signed Justin Reed to be there alongside with him. And as their GM, Mickey Loomis, said, it caught them off guard. They decided to retire today. And essentially, he just had a baby recently, so maybe his life, goals and thinking and whatever maybe changed. But he retires now. But when you think about the Honey Badger, all the stuff that he had at LSU, the reason eventually why he slid down the draft boards because of those off-field concerns, ends up in Arizona with Bruce Arians, with Steve Keim, gets his entire career together, being around the guys like a Patrick Peterson, Calais Campbell. Arizona had a lot of success during those years with Carson Palmer, making the NFC Championship game 1 year, eventually leaves Arizona, goes to Houston for a year. And I think people kind of forget about this, but after a year in Houston, he ends up in Kansas City, and 100% Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, they're a very big part of that. Tyrann Mathieu is one of the beginning leaders of that dynasty. He was as important as it gets for that defense of bringing everybody together, showing how things should be done. He should be etched in history when it comes to Kansas City Chiefs. I still remember that game when they won the AFC Championship game going to the Super Bowl. He was on the podium with Jim Nantz and Travis Kelce when Travis Kelce did his I guess now infamous. When he started, what's the saying, Ben? I forgot what it was. It's his say.
Keep going. Let's figure it out.
You gotta fight for your right to party. That one. When he said that, Tyrann Mathieu was right next to him, and it's such a cool moment because he was such a big part of the organization. So he's a big part of Chiefs history. Went back home to New Orleans, of course, was an LSU legend to finish his career. But 3 players officially retired here in the NFL, and all of them deserve their flowers here today.
Okay, fight for your right to party. Beastie Boys. A little more beyond Travis Kelce.
I know, but that was the first time he ever said it on a podium with Jim Nantz, and Tyrann Mathieu was literally felt like he was like under his shoulder.
I didn't know where you're going with that. I was like, Travis has said many of weird things, but yes, I now remember that.
Yes. So I'll always remember that image as well, because again, he was just such a big part of the start of this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty.
Well, when we talk about starts of good things and maybe dynasties, there's nothing better than starting off your offense with a young upstart offensive coordinator, which is what we had yesterday with Grant Yudinsky coming on. He was a fantastic guest. Talked to you about a whole lot of things for over 40 minutes, including living in his car, being an Uber driver, to now being one of the youngest coordinators in all of NFL history. It's a pretty remarkable story. It's super inspirational. You guys got into a lot of things with the team for this upcoming year as well. So if you haven't gone and watched that, go back one episode, take a look at that. Apple, YouTube, Spotify, it's all over the place. Audio, video. I don't know. I don't think it's been translated into Braille yet or anything, but maybe at some point that'll be something we work on. We'll get an intern for Braille. Who knows? Anything else you want to say about the interview before we get out of here?
No, I mean, go check it out if you've not done so yet. We have a lot more amazing guests lined up. Like I said yesterday, we have a player coming up. We have an executive coming up. We have another offensive coordinator, which you got to record. We won't reveal too much yet. But we have a lot of stuff over here on the pipeline over here every single Tuesday.
No one from the NFLPA.
No one from the PA, because don't get me started. But yeah, that is kind of where we are over here with the show. But that will do it here for our Wednesday, July 23 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. We will be back here tomorrow to talk more about the NFL, the news, what's going on. I guarantee you there will be another 10, 15 things going on from every single team, because like I said in the beginning, every single team is now in training camp. Podium sessions are underway, and we have a lot of things to talk about. So we will see everybody here tomorrow morning.